I spoke with Pivotal's Michael Levine yesterday. He said of all the big five listed by the FTC, Facebook is at most at risk. Do you agree?
Probably, because Facebook has already been in trouble for a lot of its data practices. I think there's a lot of fear that some of these companies that Facebook has acquired over the years were probably aiding in that ability of Facebook to come out and really collect information from millions of people around the internet without them fully grasping how intense that was. So, as you look at like an Amazon and Whole Foods, it doesn't feel quite as you used the word synergy earlier. It doesn't have quite that same level of overlap maybe that Facebook, Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp might have. But again, they're looking at smaller acquisitions than that, but I think you get the sense that it's the same type of thing.
I also was hearing from analysts that the smaller acquisitions are actually harder to break out than a WhatsApp or an Instagram because those smaller acquisitions are now so combined with the company. Is that a case as well?
Totally. I mean, most of these acquisitions are not even around. You wouldn't even know that they ever happened because the products have been shut down. The employees who worked on them have been fully integrated. You've heard the term acqui-hire before. That's so common when the acquisitions are this small. You're basically just buying this company for the talent, for the engineers, or maybe you're buying for the product and you don't even bring all the employees with it. So I do think that the smaller things really do get blended in a lot quicker, whereas you see an Instagram or a WhatsApp continue to operate almost on its own for years to come.
The FTC chair, Joseph Simons, is saying, well, this isn't related to law enforcement. It's just a study to achieve a better understanding of all these transactions. So why is everybody so terrified? Are there a few cockroaches behind the fridge?
Yeah, they're kind of describing this as a way to go out and just gather information and see if there's any patterns of behavior, right? So are we seeing that Facebook is constantly buying up young competitors and then immediately shutting them down? Are they constantly acquiring companies and taking all the data and not disclosing that? So it's really being framed as more of an exercise of how do these deals come together in general? And I think you brought up a good point, which is what is there to hide, right? If these things haven't been disclosed to the FTC or other regulators, is there a reason? Or is it just simply that they were too small and no one was required to do it, in which case, no harm done, I suppose. But I think they want to understand what they've been missing all these years.
Do investors and the tech industry sort of need to come to an understanding that perhaps this level of regulatory scrutiny just comes with the territory now?
I think so. I mean, if the last couple of years have told us anything, is that this problem is only going to get bigger, not smaller, right? We've been talking about regulation for quite a while now, basically since the end of the 2016 election, heading into 2017, and really a lot of that regulation, with the exception of like GDPR in Europe, a lot of it here in the United States hasn't even happened yet. It's just been discussed, and so I think you have to understand, if you are a Facebook, if you are an Apple or Amazon, that you're now at a scale that it's going to welcome all kinds of regulation. And so this is, a small step in what is probably a much larger journey that they're going to be on over the next 5 to 10 years.
I continue to be perplexed why we have antitrust conversations and not data privacy conversations. Where are those conversations?
Yeah, I just mentioned GDPR, and there's been talk ever since that happened in Europe that there would be a version of that coming to the United States, and it hasn't. And we've seen certain states, California, for example, has tried to implement more specific data privacy rules. But again, that's statewide. That's not necessarily going to help people throughout the rest of the country. So I think the biggest issue is probably a political one, and that is that a lot of people can't seem to come to agreements in Washington right now over how these companies should be handled. But I think you bring up a good point, right, which is that even if Facebook is not broken up, which I don't think a lot of people think it will be, is there a way to still kind of contain this by looking at the data?